Johnny Carson was interviewing actress Barbara Eden about her new Broadway show when she suddenly gripped the armrest of the guest chair and gasped, "Oh God, Johnny, the baby's coming now!" The Tonight Show audience laughed, thinking it was a comedy bit, until Barbara's water broke on live television, soaking through her yellow maternity dress onto the Tonight Show's carpet. But when the paramedics got stuck in Los Angeles traffic and Barbara started crowning right there in the guest chair, Johnny Carson did something that stunned NBC's insurance lawyers. He rolled up his sleeves, dropped to his knees, and delivered a baby on live television, while 20 million Americans watched their talk show host become an emergency midwife. February 9th, 1981. The Tonight Show was cruising through its second segment at 11:44 p.m. with the easy rhythm that made Monday nights special for celebrity interviews. Barbara Eden, 39 years old and 8 months pregnant with her second child, had come to promote her return to Broadway in Woman of the Year, scheduled to open after her baby's arrival in late March. She wore a flowing yellow maternity dress with white daisies that the wardrobe department had specifically approved for its ability to be flattering while seated. Johnny wore his classic black suit with a thin silver tie, the combination he favored for A-list guests because it photographed well and projected authority without intimidation. The interview had been delightful, with Barbara demonstrating how she'd modified her famous "I Dream of Jeannie" arm cross and nod while pregnant, getting huge laughs from the audience. Johnny had been particularly charming, asking about her preparations for motherhood at her age, considered advanced for 1981, and Barbara had joked that after playing a 2,000-year-old Jeannie, being a 39-year-old mother seemed young. The audience of 300 was eating it up. Barbara Eden was beloved. Pregnancy made her even more sympathetic, and her chemistry with Johnny was warm and familial, like old friends catching up. Ed McMahon had earlier presented Barbara with a tiny Tonight Show onesie as a baby gift, which had gotten awes from the audience and a genuine smile from Barbara. Doc Severinsen's band had played a jazzy version of the Jeannie theme as she'd walked out, modified to a slower, gentler tempo in consideration of her condition. The studio temperature was kept at a careful 68 degrees, slightly cooler than usual because the producers knew pregnant guests could overheat under the lights. Everything was proceeding with the professional polish that made The Tonight Show the gold standard of late-night television. Barbara's husband, Chicago Sun-Times executive Charles Donald Fegert, sat in the green room watching on the monitor, relaxed and smiling. Her obstetrician had cleared her for travel from Chicago to Los Angeles, with the caveat that she avoid stress and remain seated as much as possible. The baby wasn't due for 6 weeks, and Barbara had 3 more promotional appearances scheduled that week. NBC's medical consultant, required for all pregnant guests, had checked on Barbara before the show and declared everything normal. At exactly 11:47 p.m., mid-sentence through Barbara describing her Broadway rehearsal schedule, her entire body went rigid. Her hands, which had been gesturing gracefully, suddenly gripped the armrests of the Tonight Show guest chair with white-knuckled intensity. Her face, which had been glowing with pregnancy radiance, contorted in unmistakable pain. "Oh, God," she gasped, cutting herself off completely. "Oh, God, Johnny, something's wrong. The baby—" She doubled over as much as her pregnant belly would allow, a low moan escaping that the boom microphones amplified throughout the studio. The audience laughed nervously, assuming this was a rehearsed comedy bit about pregnancy discomfort. Johnny's smile froze, then faded as he registered the genuine terror in Barbara's eyes. "Barbara, is this real?" Before she could answer, Barbara let out a scream that shattered any remaining illusion of comedy. Her yellow maternity dress darkened with moisture as her water broke dramatically, amniotic fluid pooling on the Tonight Show's carpet and dripping from the guest chair. The audience's laughter died instantly, replaced by gasps and confused murmuring. This was live television, But this wasn't television anymore. This was a medical emergency happening in real time. "The baby's coming now," Barbara cried out, her hands moving to her belly. "This isn't supposed to happen. I'm only 34 weeks. Johnny, help me." Her husband Charles burst from the green room, sprinting toward the stage, but was stopped by security who didn't recognize him in the chaos. Ed McMahon shot up from his desk, knocking over his coffee mug with a crash. Doc Severinsen dropped his trumpet. Fred de Cordova was screaming into his headset for medical, for commercial, for someone to do something. But the NBC medical consultant had stepped out for a cigarette break, unreachable. Johnny immediately moved to Barbara, kneeling beside the guest chair. "Okay, Barbara, look at me. We're calling an ambulance right now. You're going to be fine." But Barbara grabbed his arm with shocking strength, her nails digging through his suit jacket. "Johnny, I can feel the head. The baby is coming right now. I've done this before. This is happening now." The terror in her voice was matched by physical evidence. She was already beginning to bear down involuntarily, her body taking over despite the impossible circumstances of being on live television. Johnny Carson's face cycled through expressions that 20 million viewers had never seen before. Panic, determination, then something that looked like military resolve. "Get every cushion from the green room, now!" he barked at the stagehands, with an authority that came from somewhere deeper than television hosting. "Ed, call 911 and tell them we have a woman in active labor at NBC Studios. Fred, keep the cameras rolling. America's about to witness something." He turned back to Barbara, whose face was contorted with another contraction. "Barbara, I delivered a baby once, in the Navy, Philippines, 1946. We're going to do this together." The revelation that Johnny Carson had any medical experience, let alone obstetric, stunned everyone, including Barbara. Through her pain, she managed to gasp. "You've delivered a baby?" Johnny was already removing his suit jacket, rolling up his white shirt sleeves with practiced efficiency. "Filipino woman went into labor during a typhoon evacuation. No doctor for 50 miles. A corpsman taught me over radio while I did it. Mother and baby were fine." He positioned himself at Barbara's feet, his expensive suit pants on the Tonight Show's carpet, now soaked with amniotic fluid. "Barbara, I need you to trust me. When the next contraction comes, you push." "Johnny, I can see the head," Barbara screamed, and indeed, as Johnny carefully lifted her dress while preserving as much modesty as the situation allowed, the crown of the baby's head was visible. The audience sat in frozen shock. 300 people witnessing something that seemed impossible. The Tonight Show had become a delivery room. Johnny's voice took on a calm authority that nobody recognized. "Perfect position, Barbara. Baby's not in distress. Doc." He called to Severinsen. "I need clean towels from your dressing room, hot water from the coffee station, and someone find me scissors and string. Anything sterile." The studio erupted into controlled chaos as crew members ran in every direction following Johnny's orders. Barbara's husband, Charles, had finally fought his way onto the stage, dropping beside his wife to hold her hand. "Johnny Carson is delivering our baby," he said in disbelief. Johnny never looked up from his position. "Sir, I need you to talk to your wife. Keep her calm. Barbara, on the next contraction, we're going to meet your baby." "Push, Barbara! Push now!" Johnny commanded as Barbara's next contraction peaked. The Tonight Show studio lights, designed for entertainment, now illuminated the most primal human moment ever broadcast on television. Barbara bore down with a guttural scream that would replay in viewers' minds for decades. Johnny's hands, the same ones that shuffled cards for comic effect and drummed pencils during interviews, were now guiding a baby into the world. "I've got the head. You're doing amazing, Barbara. One more big push." His voice carried the steady confidence of someone who'd found their emergency training buried under 35 years of civilian life. Doc Severinsen arrived with towels from his dressing room, his sequined jacket incongruous with the medical emergency unfolding. Ed McMahon had returned from calling 911 with news that would change everything. "Johnny, there's a 15-car pileup on the 101. Paramedics say minimum 20 minutes. Johnny didn't even look up. "Then we're doing this ourselves. Doc, lay those towels here. Ed, boil water in the coffee maker. We need it sterile. Someone find me shoelaces, dental floss, anything to tie the umbilical cord." The entire Tonight Show crew mobilized like a military unit, following Johnny's commands without question. Barbara's next push brought the baby's shoulders out, and Johnny carefully rotated the tiny body with a technique that looked impossibly professional. "It's a girl," he announced, his voice cracking with emotion, as the baby slipped fully into his hands. A tiny, purple, beautiful human being, born on the Tonight Show stage at 11:52 p.m. But she wasn't crying. Johnny's demeanor shifted instantly from joy to concern. Without hesitation, he cleared the baby's mouth with his finger, then gently rubbed her back while positioning her head down. "Come on, sweetheart, let's hear you," he whispered, though the microphones caught every word. The silence stretched for 5 eternal seconds, Barbara crying, "Why isn't she crying?" Charles frozen in terror, the audience holding their collective breath, until finally, beautifully, the baby girl let out a strong, angry wail that filled Studio One. Johnny's tears were flowing freely as he wrapped the infant in Doc's towels and placed her on Barbara's chest. "She's perfect," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Absolutely perfect." The Burbank Fire Department paramedics burst through the studio doors at 12:03 a.m., 11 minutes after the birth, to find Johnny Carson cradling a newborn while kneeling beside Barbara Eden on the Tonight Show stage. The lead paramedic, Tom Rodriguez, stopped short at the scene. Johnny in his blood-stained white shirt and ruined suit pants, Barbara propped on Tonight Show couch cushions with her newborn daughter on her chest, the umbilical cord still attached and tied off with Doc Severinsen's Italian leather shoelaces. "Who delivered this baby?" Rodriguez asked in amazement. When 300 audience fingers pointed at Johnny, Rodriguez shook his head in disbelief. "Mr. Carson, this is textbook delivery positioning. The cord tie is perfect. Where did you—" Johnny cut him off quietly. "USS Pennsylvania, 1946. Some things you never forget." Within minutes of the paramedics confirming both mother and baby were stable, NBC's switchboard crashed from the volume of calls, 68,000 in the first hour, the highest in network history. Americans weren't calling to complain about the disrupted schedule or the graphic nature of what they'd witnessed. They were calling in tears, offering congratulations, sharing their own birth stories, and expressing awe at Johnny's hidden depths. Newspapers around the world were already resetting their front pages. "Carson delivers" would be tomorrow's headline from Los Angeles to London. The Tonight Show had become the most watched birth in human history. Barbara, still on the makeshift delivery bed of couch cushions, reached for Johnny's hand. "You saved us," she whispered, tears streaming. "She came too fast. She was early, and you knew what to do." Johnny, still kneeling beside her in his destroyed suit, squeezed her hand. "You did all the work, Barbara. I just caught." But Charles Fegert, Barbara's husband, grabbed Johnny in an embrace that surprised them both. "You brought my daughter into this world on live television, with no equipment, no help, no hesitation. How do I ever thank you for that?" Ed McMahon took over hosting duties as Johnny accompanied Barbara and the baby, already being called the Tonight Show baby by the press, to the ambulance. The cameras followed Johnny walking beside the stretcher, still in his ruined clothes, refusing to leave Barbara's side. His final words picked up by the boom mics. "I'll visit tomorrow." "And Barbara?" She needs a middle name. How about Hope? The birth of Jennifer Hope Eden-Fegert on The Tonight Show triggered a revolution in emergency preparedness across the entertainment industry. Within 6 months, every television studio in America was required to have trained emergency medical technicians on site during all live broadcasts, a regulation known as the Eden Protocol. Johnny personally funded emergency obstetric training for all Tonight Show staff, insisting that what happened once could happen again. NBC installed a fully equipped medical suite adjacent to Studio One, complete with delivery equipment which other networks quickly copied. The studio where Jennifer was born became a peculiar pilgrimage site, with pregnant women visiting for good luck, believing that a stage blessed by such a successful emergency delivery carried special fortune. Barbara Eden returned to The Tonight Show 3 months later with baby Jennifer, creating the highest-rated episode of 1981. Jennifer, wearing a tiny Tonight Show onesie, seemed to recognize Johnny's voice, turning toward him and cooing whenever he spoke. Johnny held her with the practiced ease of someone who'd been visiting regularly, which Barbara confirmed he had, every week since the birth, bringing toys, checking on their health, and establishing a college fund he thought was secret until Barbara revealed it on air. The audience gave a 10-minute standing ovation when Johnny held Jennifer, the baby he'd delivered with his bare hands, on this very stage. The medical community studied the footage extensively, with the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists requesting the complete unedited tape for training purposes. They were astounded by Johnny's technique, the way he'd cleared the airway, stimulated breathing, and managed the umbilical cord with improvised materials. Dr. Patricia Hoffman, who analyzed the footage, declared, "Mr. Carson performed maneuvers that some residents struggle with. His Navy corpsman training from 1946, combined with what appears to be perfect recall under pressure, resulted in a textbook delivery. He saved 2 lives that night. The baby was in distress, arriving 6 weeks early. Without immediate intervention, we might have lost her." Johnny received over 10,000 letters from military corpsmen and medics, past and present, expressing pride that one of their own had proven the lasting value of their training. The Navy invited Johnny to address the Corps School, where he emotionally recounted both the 1946 Filipino birth and Jennifer's delivery, emphasizing that military medical training never leaves you. It just waits until someone needs it. The Barbara Eden delivery exposed something about Johnny Carson that redefined public understanding of celebrity depth. Beneath the polished entertainer existed a man who'd carried emergency medical training in his muscle memory for 35 years, waiting for moments that might never come. In a 60 Minutes interview 6 months later, Johnny revealed to Mike Wallace what he'd never told anyone. "After delivering that baby in the Philippines during the typhoon, I couldn't sleep for weeks. I kept thinking, what if I hadn't remembered the training? What if I'd frozen? So I made a promise to myself to stay current on emergency medicine. I've been taking refresher courses at UCLA Medical Center since 1962 under an assumed name. Barbara's baby wasn't luck. It was preparation meeting opportunity." Former Navy shipmates from the USS Pennsylvania began sharing stories about ship's comedian Carson that painted a different portrait entirely. Robert Martinez, who'd served as a corpsman, revealed, "Johnny was there when I delivered 3 babies during our deployment. He watched everything, took notes, asked questions. He said comedy was his calling, but saving lives was his responsibility. The man memorized every emergency medical procedure I taught him. I always wondered if he'd retained any of it. Watching him deliver that baby on TV 35 years later, he remembered everything, even the way I taught him to position his hands." The Tonight Show staff began revealing Johnny's hidden preparations they'd never understood until the Barbara Eden incident. His secretary, Patricia Lewis, disclosed that Johnny kept medical textbooks in his dressing room, specifically obstetric emergency manuals. His driver reported that Johnny would often stop at accident scenes, never identifying himself, offering medical assistance until paramedics arrived. The image of Johnny Carson as a carefully prepared emergency responder hiding behind a comedian's mask fundamentally altered how America saw their late-night host. Dr. Susan Chen, Johnny's secret medical instructor at UCLA, finally came forward. "I knew him as John Peters for 20 years. He attended emergency medical seminars, practiced on mannequins, kept current on protocols. When I saw him deliver that baby on television, I realized John Peters was Johnny Carson. He'd been preparing for that moment, or one like it, his entire adult life. He told me once, 'Comedy is what I do, but being ready to help is who I am.'" Jennifer Hope Eden-Fegert became known as America's television baby, with her birth certificate officially listing the place of birth as NBC Studios, The Tonight Show stage, Burbank, California. The studio installed a bronze plaque on the exact spot where Johnny delivered her, reading, "On this site, February 9, 1981, Johnny Carson delivered Jennifer Hope Eden-Fegert on live television, proving that heroes don't always wear scrubs." By her 5th birthday, Jennifer had received over 100,000 birthday cards from Americans who felt connected to the child whose birth they'd witnessed. The Tonight Show celebrated her birthday annually, with Johnny always sending a personal video message and a savings bond, building toward what would become a full scholarship to any university she chose. The footage of Johnny delivering Jennifer became the most requested clip in television history, used in medical schools, midwifery programs, and emergency response training worldwide. The American Red Cross created the Carson Protocol for emergency childbirth, based on his exact movements and decisions that night. By 1990, an estimated 5,000 babies had been successfully delivered by laypeople using Johnny's televised technique as their guide. Parents would write to thank him, often including photos of healthy children born in taxis, elevators, and blizzards, because someone remembered watching Johnny Carson deliver a baby on television. Barbara Eden established the Carson Eden Foundation for Premature Infants, recognizing that Jennifer's early arrival could have been catastrophic without Johnny's intervention. The foundation provided emergency obstetric training to first responders, focusing on the critical first minutes when premature babies need immediate assistance. Johnny donated his entire Tonight Show salary from 1981 to the foundation, though he insisted this remain anonymous until after his death. The foundation's mobile units, disguised as regular ambulances but equipped with advanced neonatal equipment, were called Carson units by paramedics who knew their secret origin. NBC's Studio One became an unexpected tourist destination for pregnant women, with expecting mothers touching the plaque for good luck. The Tonight Show received thousands of birth announcements from parents who'd watched the Eden delivery while in labor themselves, claiming Johnny's calm voice had helped them through their own deliveries. By Johnny's retirement in 1992, he'd received honorary medical degrees from 12 universities, all citing the Eden delivery as proof that medical knowledge transcended professional boundaries. The Eden delivery illuminated a fundamental truth about human capability. We all carry within us dormant knowledge and strength that emerges only when life demands it, when another human being's survival depends on our willingness to act despite fear. Johnny Carson, delivering a baby on live television, demonstrated that expertise isn't confined to credentials. It lives in anyone who's paid attention, prepared quietly, and refuses to let panic override purpose. 20 million Americans didn't just watch a birth. They witnessed proof that ordinary people carry extraordinary capabilities, waiting for the moment when stepping forward becomes the only option. The spiritual dimension of Johnny's act transcended religious boundaries entirely. The image of Johnny Carson on his knees, catching new life with bare hands while still wearing his Tonight Show tie, became a modern nativity, not in a stable, but on a television stage. Not with wise men, but with band members bringing towels. Not under a star, but under studio lights. Ministers, rabbis, and philosophers all found meaning in the moment. How life insists on arriving regardless of convenience. How birth makes everyone equal. How a comedian became a midwife when the universe demanded it. The moment asked fundamental questions. What skills do we carry that we've never used? What emergencies are we unknowingly prepared for? The incident exposed our collective assumption that certain people handle certain crises. Doctors deliver babies, not talk show hosts. Yet Johnny's competent hands guiding Jennifer into the world shattered that compartmentalization, suggesting that we've artificially limited who can help whom based on job titles rather than capability. His Navy training from 1946 saving a baby in 1981 proved that knowledge doesn't expire, that what we learn in service to others becomes part of our permanent architecture, accessible when needed even decades later. Perhaps most profoundly, the Eden delivery revealed that our entertainment spaces could become sacred spaces in an instant, that the stages where we laugh could become altars, where life emerges. Johnny's willingness to destroy his expensive suit, to kneel in amniotic fluid, to risk his reputation if something went wrong, showed that true authority comes not from position, but from usefulness in crisis. The Tonight Show's transformation from comedy program to delivery room proved that every space is potentially holy, waiting only for life to demand its sanctification through service.